Hey everybody, another build video. I know I'm in the middle of my ranked stream climb right now, but I already had this build just about done right before the patch came out and I started my moves, so I feel like I might as well just finish this one. Hasn't really been affected by the patch that much, so nothing really to note in that regard. The general goal of this build was to make the Karasawa and the Coral Missile in some way viable. Now, granted, the redshift was also part of this build as like an unusual weapon, but that's become more popular lately, so maybe that's not actually rare to see anymore. At least, but it is rare to see on mediums. I think it's more common on kiters. Anyways, the general strategy of this build is to leverage our height, like our thrust with vertical movement with these boosters, to get a height advantage on opponents and poke them with the suit missiles until our coral missile gets a lock. You do have to be pretty quick and launch and get like a height advantage with the coral missile, but not too high up above them, because what we're going to try to do is drop down near the target as the coral missile gets in very close proximity. Usually you can tell because the like 2 or 3 of the little red tracers will start to hit them, or at least miss them, but the point being that they're starting to pass the opponent. We're going to fire the Karasawa, which will be a guaranteed stagger on anything but the most tanky builds, but when you factor in the suit missiles, even tanks are going to get staggered by this thing because of its obscene amount of impact. It's 1930 if it's charged. We'll then double slash with the redshift here to get some stagger extensions while the coral missile catches up and hits the opponent, and that's going to cause a lot of coral damage in particular, which is nice. So we're getting the double slash here of about 1450. We're getting the charged coral missile, which is the majority of our damage, by the way, so you really do want to try to make this build about landing this. The build is in no means like viable in super competitive play, but you'll see that as long as I'm not fighting like kiters, and even then it's not terrible because of the suit missiles against kiters, but it actually is a really fun play style to play, just if you want something different. So yeah, the coral missile will impact right as the stagger extension holds them in place. We've also got assault armor for like a last ditch sort of chip damage, or if they're very vulnerable and they're not running, like let's say they're running assault armor, you can cancel it, or if you just want to like finish off an opponent, because most people are not going to have much health at the end of this, given they're taking 2500 here, about 1500 here in true damage, and then another 4000 and change true damage. Plus the soup is also a pretty high damage missile at a 780 per stream. Granted, not all of them will land. And then you've got your coral generator boosting your assault armor for even more damage there. So for tanks, you're definitely going to want to do 2 combos, and you'll actually be fast enough to keep some spacing on them. For everybody else, you do not have a spacing advantage, a speed advantage. So you're going to be fighting on their terms in terms of distance, but energy management is going to be crucial here because there's a long delay in the NGI generator. You could swap this for pulse armor. I didn't find I needed it, to be honest, but you're welcome to that if you just think that you'll make a few mistakes. Want to swap that out so you can be protected while you wait for the generator to come back a second time. Yeah, the aesthetic here. So this build's called the Corrupted Archangel. Hope you guys like that. I did a little variation on arquebus spelling here. So there's 2 versions of this build. You can see that I'm running the knock helm in this case, and this particular setup is going to have you using less range for your scan, but it sticks once you do get it, so the duration on the scan is really long. You can see the knock head's got 13.2 seconds. That's plenty of time for getting the coral missile locked on, and then giving you plenty of time to wiggle around and get your spacing right before you launch it. So this one is great if opponents tend to rush you down. It doesn't have nearly as much range though, 280, so you do actually have to anticipate getting close to your opponents with this one, but once you do get the scan, you're basically guaranteed to get the coral missile locked on. The other variation I have, you have to swap the arms out in order to get the Karasawa head, which is one of my favorites, but I adapted the paint job here. I like the look of this one a little better, but you have to swap the arms out, which is going to cost you some melee damage. Firearm specialization and stats are pretty close. We're coming from, I believe, not the HAL arms here, but which one did I have on here? These guys here, the VPs. So you lose some stats. You gain some speed, though. Not a ton, but you gain a little bit. And in terms of the firearm specialization, it's pretty close. It doesn't make a big difference. It's mainly the melee damage trade-off. but this is fine too. They both work. And the main reason we're doing this is just to get the Kurosawa head. Something else to note too that's going to take a little bit of a skill with this build is that when you're charging both the Kurosawa and the Coral Missile, you are not going to be able to regenerate energy pretty much at all. Like, yes, if you wait and for some reason you can get the spacing, you'll be able to slowly regenerate your energy, but you might as well be playing with I think you are playing with 100 efficiency. So a lot of times it's best just to dump all of the remaining energy and let the coral generator give you about 2/3 back. So you can see here, the regen is going to be painful. It might as well not exist. So that's kind of why I say, if you think that you're going to be needing more energy, just spend it all and use the coral generator's full, nearly full bar of recovery to get it back. It's much more efficient. And then if you really need it quickly, you can always cancel, but you're gonna have to recharge your weapons. But granted, it's actually getting the coral missile locked that's the main goal here. The charge is not terribly long on these weapons, as you can see. I can definitely pull that off quickly. Okay, so that's the build. I'll feature some PvP matches and let you guys see the fun little playstyle here. Hope you like the aesthetic as well too.